This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me, as usual, is Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
We've got four main reviews for you this evening. We're going to kick off with Mad God, a film which has taken 30 years in the making. Then we have a French film called Out of This World. Then we're off to Jordan for The Alleys and back to the UK for The Payday. Our short shot this week is a fan film based on KICKASS called KICKASS the Reboot. And our DTV Throwback is a treasure of actors in Skin Trade. So without further ado, let's crack on. Our first review then is Mad God. Now, I'm going to read out what IMDb says about this. It says, the assassin travels through a nightmare underworld of tortured souls, ruined cities, and wretched monstrosities forged from the primordial horrors of an unconscious mind of Phil Tippet, the world's preeminent stop-motion animator. What a pile of bollocks. Oh my God. This was torture. This was absolute torture for me, guys. Me not likey at all. I can respect it on a certain level. It is a labor of love. There is a lot of technical skill involved. But fuck me sideways. Oh, this is just drivel. It really is just drivel, as far as I'm concerned. Steve, did you get anything out of this?
Visually, it's stunning. I mean, to look at it, it's wonderful.
It's ugly
the
as shit.
plot
But there you go.
is bollocks. No, I thought it was really well done. I mean, the animation's great, and yeah, it's grim, grimy, but to look at it's fantastic. Everything else was bollocks. You're right; it was absolute. Yeah, I mean, it makes. There's no plot, there's no real story, it's just mishmash scenarios shoved together, and
it's like oh, this will look cool, that's basically what it boils down to. Rich, how about you? Did you get anything out of this one?
I did. It reminded me of, I mean, this was originally on Shudder. It's now coming out on Blu-ray from Acorn. And deservedly so on Blu-ray. I mean, I'm sure it's going to look. I mean, I watched it. It looked pretty good to me. The Spine of Night was a film. Was also an animated film. Also took a long time to make. In that case, it was around 10 years, using a very particular animation style. I didn't really get on with that one. That one did have kind of more of a proper narrative, because it was kind of a multi-story kind of thing, had dialogue and stuff. This has no dialogue. It is animation, but there is a bit of live action mixed in there as well. It's a combination of different styles that is used. And I did think, although I'm not a big animation fan, there was enough that was continually happening, and the creations that he's come up with are so interesting that it was very engaging and interesting to me to watch as an experience. I think it's not so much, there is narrative, I would say, but it's more like an art installation. It's an artistic piece, rather. It's an art film rather than sort of a narrative film. So even that, there are human actors in it. I mean, director Alex Cox turns up for a few scenes with very long fingernails and stuff, but he doesn't have any dialogue. It's not a dialogue film. It's all about, the emphasis is on the visual and the music and sound effects and stuff like that. Phil Tippet, obviously, legendary animator, most well known for things like RoboCop and stuff. He's also directed things before. He did this Starship Troopers sequel, I think, the first one, DTV sequel. And this is a very different kind of beast. I mean, that's kind of a that would have been like a paying kind of job. This is like his labor of love. This is like the thing he's been working on, and is sort of him exorcising or you know, releasing every creative impulse. And I think that's quite apparent. You know, there's so much creativity in the movie, and you know, not just created by him, but his whole team of animators and stuff have brought these creations to life, and it is quite extraordinary. I don't think there's anything else like it, although obviously stop motion has a long history. I think this does deserve the sort of reputation that it's been getting of, you know, quite unique. The fact it has had it hasn't had a cinema release. I'd say it's been a Shudder film, but it has been showing at the Prince Charles Cinema in London and probably some other cinemas around, I would expect. And I think it must look quite fantastic on a big screen. Did I like it? I like it as for the imagination on display, and it didn't. I wasn't bored by it at all, but I didn't really follow it. I can't say I followed the narrative or whatever, but you know, that's the par for the course of a lot of art films and stuff for me. But I did think it was very striking and very impressive. I know you didn't, but
Yeah.
I there's elements in here, but the thing is, what I mostly got out of this is that this world that is created is just too destructive for its own good that it could not possibly exist. You know, there is so
he
much.
was trying to. I mean, the Blu-ray is packed full of extras, and I've gone through a few of them. It's a fantastic. It's a feature-length commentary, but it's not a commentary. It's basically just an interview track between Tippet and Guillermo del Toro, who's asking him lots of questions and sort of, you know,
like, why the fuck did you do this? That sort of question, hopefully.
But no, he was praising. He was overflowing with praise for it and stuff. And they were talking about all the influences and how the idea was to bring make the film as like a Hieronymus Bosch painting, sort of come to life. You know, all that with all that darkness and stuff. Was Trapdoor one of his inspirations? Wish I got age there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't you open that trapdoor, because there's something down there.
Yep.
There is a trapdoor element to this, I would say. But yeah, I mean, there's weird I mean, you can't describe it. I mean, there's like huge weird creatures with giant breasts and stuff, like breasts for eyes and stuff. Yeah, it's really
a lot of eyes in there, to be fair.
There's a lot of crazy stuff, and people having cesarean sections to release like alien like creature. I mean, you can see all the stuff from Tippet's past is kind of showing itself. You know, all the sort of, you know, Starship Troopers and that, all that's in there, and it's just anything and everything.
I'll tell you one thing I did spot. You know, when like the capsule that he's in finally lands at the beginning, he looks out the window.
Yeah,
there was a Robbie the Robot from Lost in Space there. The original one. I saw that, and it's just it's great to look at. I mean, it is, like you say, it's like an art installation. It is like a work of art, but narratively, it did nothing for me whatsoever at all. Yep. Really didn't.
And the thing is, I think, you know, that is a criticism, but you know, that is the kind of, this is the kind of movie that is, I will say, it's only an hour and 23 minutes long. It doesn't, it's you know, it's not like I don't think he's been too indulgent there. I mean, I think that's you know, an hour and 20 minutes is a very modest kind of running time. These, I mean, the fact that, I mean, the animation takes so long to do this kind of thing, you have to keep it running brief, really. But the you know, you could, I mean, The Spine of Night, I think, was about 2 hours.
Yeah,
which I just
thought 2 hours. That was overindulgent.
Just way too much. This I didn't. Yes, it's indulgent because it has to be. I mean, it's a pure creation from this guy who's, you know, just letting everything out. You know, all this influences and you know, stresses and anxieties and impressions and you know, he says, you know, when he was in the interview or whatever, that he all these different bits of research. He was trying to bring all this, spiritual stuff and everything that, some, like with the painting, how you get, like, I look at a paint, I might go to the gap, like I was at the Tate Modern or whatever. I just walk past the paint, it doesn't mean anything to me too much. Or I might look at a painting and be interested in it for like a minute. Other people will like dissect it, and they'll spot all these little bits, and they'll do, which truth I do with some films, but people will do that with this film. They'll be able to pick it apart and analyze it for, in courses and stuff. I think it's got that depth to it, that I don't get it, because it's not. I'm not picking up on those influences, but I think it's all in there, and I think for the right audiences, this is going to be, something special that they'll really remember. I mean, it's an animated film, but don't show it to the kids, because it might mess them up a bit.
Jesus Christ, would it ever?
Yeah, no.
So a couple of things on this. It reminded me that the grotesquerie of it reminded me of there's a animated sequence in the middle of this Russian film called Sleepless Beauty, which I reviewed for this show a while back. And there's this whole sequence where she's sort of being bombarded with these images, and you see them, and it's like really, really gross stuff, basically, but it's all CGI. And it lasts about 5 minutes of screen time, whereas this lasts, like, as you say, sort of 80 minutes or so. I can see the technical skill involved and the artistry, but as a film, there's nothing there. It's just like one grotesque image after another, and it's just so weird. It's like, you get these whole sequences where these creatures keep dying or keep getting killed, for no reason, and it is just totally, I guess this is what he's going for. There's no weight to any of it. It's like, this is just shit that happens. And think, well, if you lived in this world, shit like this wouldn't happen, or you take steps to avoid dying at least. If you're one of these creatures, you'd know not to stand up in the middle of a causeway where there's flying freight trains going over your head that are going to sort of smash into you and stuff like this. It's just weird, sort of like, I don't know.
They're like zombie creatures.
But even other bits, it's all this sort of like, it's either eat or be eaten kind of thing all the time.
Yeah. It's like the futility of life, it's just all death, basically. That's all it is.
I haven't seen anything this grotesque since probably some Japanese sort of direct-to-video stuff,
Yeah.
But
I didn't find anything like repulsive or off-putting or anything in.
It's like this.
There's
a 3-minute sequence of this character being eviscerated by a surgeon, and just having all his. It just goes on and on and on. It's overindulgent a little bit.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I think that's fair.
Okay, so the score though was very good.
Yeah, so it ends with that piece of music. That's it's that classical piece of music that was used in True Romance. I always just think I always associate it with True Romance. So it goes ding 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 ding.
Oh, that yeah.
But it just seemed a very odd sort of upbeat kind of piece of music to sort of end on, which I guess was kind of the point he was going for.
Yeah.
But yeah. So very interesting, and I say it's out on Blu-ray, and if you're interested in animation and Tippet's work and stuff, I mean, that's the format to see it in, I would say, if you can't get to a cinema.
This did very well on the festival circuit last year, or earlier this year.
Yeah. Well, that's not.
It was shown around quite a bit. So when it arrived on Shudder, it was riding a bit of a crest of a wave of critical support. But it's not for me personally.
No.
How would you rate it against Spine of Night as the most recent example of a similar kind of project?
I think Spine of Night wins out, and we're splitting hairs, but I would put Spine of Night slightly above this one. I think I would probably get more out of Spine of Night if I went back and watched it again. I could probably get into those sort of themes of like religious fanaticism and Reformation and stuff that it was sort of aiming for. Whereas
that's interesting because that's what they were doing. That's what he was heavily all the religious stuff in this as well, but in a different way. They're kind of quite similar in a way that these two films, although that was much more of a Ralph Bakshi kind of thing.
But this just, I mean,
was it the fact that Spine of Night had sort of those dialogue scenes and a bit more of a narrative that you could follow? You were with a character who you could sort of identify with to a degree, whereas this one has the assassin. I didn't even know he was called the assassin.
No,
until...
I realized that he was he was there to try and blow up the whatever it is. That was his. He had a mission. But other than that, no. What was the question?
Well, my question is now what are you going to score it, Mike?
Well, what I was just about to say is I can understand why he designed the character that way. Over, to considering how long it took him to make, he did build in a bit of sort of fail safes and foolproofing to make sure that he probably thought, this is going to take me 10 years or something. Don't worry about sort of doing too much sort of character work. It's more of a sort of Hearts of Darkness kind of situation. This guy going deeper and deeper into the maw of this sort of hell. But I'm going to score this one a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd agree with 5. And that's, I mean, to be fair, the visuals are fantastic. I really like the visuals, but there's no story there. There's no narrative there to me. It's just scenes thrown together, and that's not my kind of thing.
Absolutely. Okay, and Rich, how about you, mate?
Well, I think it should be seen and experienced at least once. So it's technically impressive. So I'm going to give it a 7.
Alrighty. 2 5s and a 7 for Mad God. It's currently on Shudder and also on Blu-ray. Go check it out. Our next review is Out of This World. Now, Steve, I'm going to read out what IMDb describes this movie as.
Yeah, well,
a shy man who works as a taxi driver because he can't afford to live as a musician meets a deaf girl dancer who is attracted to him despite his trouble communicating. Now, does that sound like a film that either you or I would want to watch?
No, because it's not.
It's not that. Well, I mean, there's a little bit of a detail. There's a little bit of a detail they've missed out there. It's like, Andy's a serial killer, and then we sort of perk up a little bit. Okay, so it's more of a sort of arty-farty sort of genre film. It's from France, so of course it is. There is little dialogue. Because we've got this guy who he does have difficulty communicating except through his music, and in between his killing sprees, he sort of obsesses over this deaf girl who he follows one day, stalks, sees that she's a dancer, and just kind of hangs out, killing a few people, sort of like is slowly getting into her life. What did you make of it?
It's weird. It really, I mean, the character is. I couldn't get my head around it because he's like. There's a scene halfway through where you think he's going to kill this woman or whatever, and he doesn't. He gets her in a flat and like asks her, "What do I do with girls?" And it's bizarre. It really is. It's truly bizarre because it's like he lives in his car.
Yep.
Eats noodles that he cooks in the kettle or whatever, like pop noodle things. Makes music on this
sort of keyboard.
Yeah. My son will know what it's called. I should have asked him. And then just goes around killing women indiscriminately. But there's like some parts you're like, hang on, is he dreaming this or not? And there's no like say, police investigation angle or anything like that. There's no, thought of him getting into trouble. He just does it and carries on. There's no repercussions and such. And it was very, very bizarre. And, the deaf girl dancer, she seems really sweet and lovely. And then, I don't know. It was very strange. I couldn't really get my head around it, to be fair.
Yeah,
it left me baffled.
I'm kind of with you on this one, I must admit.
Yeah.
The music, again, the music was very good for this, and it was very well shot. I did like the dancing bits with the girl, but those bits were really good. But yeah, the character, the main character, is just unfathomable, basically. And
but I mean, there's that one scene as well where he goes, I think it's to visit his mother, and it kind of gives you where he's come from. Because he just sits there screaming at him, really, basically. And I'm it's like is the trauma from that when he was younger, or I think he mentioned as well she used to burn him with cigarettes at one point.
That's right. Yeah, he's got a scar on his arm.
Yeah. So obviously, traumatic childhood turned him into a bit of a. But it's just weird.
But he's not a sympathetic character at all.
No, not at all. No,
it's not someone you can go, and it's just weird. Yeah, it's just a weird one.
Yeah.
And then
it's interesting. Sorry, just to interject there. It's interesting you say that there's dance sequences in the film that you were quite interested, because I was just looking at the director Marc Fouchard's filmography, and the film he made previously was a dance film. It's but a much more sort of commercial kind of mainstream film about like a drama set in the world of like modern dance, street dancing kind of thing. And so I wonder whether he's got this. Maybe he's got a background in dance that maybe that's why he brings it to these movies.
I mean,
because that film, which is on Netflix, sounds like a completely different kettle of fish to this.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've just looked at that. Is it Break you were looking at?
Break, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that looks like something like Step Up or something like that. This is
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
This is just like the deaf girl in a room,
Yeah, it's more like the dancing in Suspiria, the remake, rather than anything else.
Yeah, it's just. It's not like big dance sequences or anything like that. It's just her, using the bass and the beats that she can feel to dance, basically. It's nothing over the top or anything like that. It's quite subdued, but it's a nice scene, and it's just, I just couldn't get a grasp on it, to be fair. It's a bit bizarre.
I'm totally with you on this one, and the ending doesn't really sort of give you any, anything really to sort of hang on. And the way the ending's edited as well, I wasn't too impressed with, I must admit. But anyway, scores.
What do you mean in terms of the editing? Just give me an indication of what you're getting at.
It misses out bits. It skips over whole things and just sort of
jump cuts, or
not even that. It just like segues from one moment to like 5 minutes later, and you think, well, thanks.
Yeah.
But there you go. Scores, Steve.
I'll give it a 5 again.
Yeah, it's another 5 from me. 2 5s for Out of This World. Go check it out. Our next review is The Alleys, a crime caper set in the labyrinthine alleys of East Aman in Jordan, where a blackmailing voyeur sets off a series of unintended events, causing the lives of residents to collide and spiral into chaos. This is the Middle East version of EastEnders.
Middle EastEnders.
Yeah.
It really is. It's so as it says, it's set within these sort of, this sort of housing area, which is sort of has all these different little alleyways and things, and it centers on this couple, Ali and Lana, who are sort of illicit lovers. Basically, she's still in her teens, he's a bit older, and they they're not going through the proper protocol to be together. He's sneaking into her bedroom, and lo and behold, there's some scumbag who sees him going in and starts like filming from across the street, basically. So there's an abandoned building, he's able to film, and then he sort of sends the video to the girl saying, give me 500 dinar or this is going public, So her mum finds out, she gets a copy of this as well. And as any upstanding citizen would be, she goes to the local crime boss to get help. So he agrees to ensure that the blackmailer doesn't publish the video, and also to scare off the guy, this Ali guy, saying, back off. Her family doesn't want to see you and all this sort of stuff. But he decides, no, let's, rather than do that, how about I rob the crime boss and run off with the girl? Because that's the sensible thing to do. And it kind of just keeps spiraling from there. You've got these sort of various characters. It's very sort of Romeo and Juliet, sort of a bit of star-crossed lovers going on. It's okay. If you like that sort of, if you like EastEnders, it's exactly the sort of level of drama you're looking at here. Nothing bombastic or anything. It's all very grimy and this sort of very sort of suburban environment. And as a grown-up adult, I just couldn't help thinking, well, if they'd done the right thing and gone through the right channels, then nothing would have happened.
Yeah.
Because even her mum turns around to at one point and goes, well, okay, look, you like this guy, obviously. Let's invite him round. Let's go speak to his parents, like civilized people, and let's see where things lead. She was willing to do that in the end, but by then it's kind of too late. There's a few bodies turn up along the way, and then you find out who the blackmailer is towards the end, and nothing consequential happens to anyone who really should have consequences. It's one of those weird ones, but it's okay. Yeah, it was relatively engaging. It's an exotic setting as far as we're concerned. So
it's a Jordanian film, is it?
It's a Jordanian film. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all in the whatever language they speak over there. I'm going to say Arabic. Don't hate me. But yeah, it's pretty well done, I have to say. There's some very interesting characters in there.
What about the sort of directing style, the cinematography, the visuals? What
it's
editing?
Editing is it's all workmanlike. The acting's very good, but as I said, there's nothing here you're not going to see outside of EastEnders.
Is it TV like, or sort of? Is it quite stylish?
No, it's got a little bit more theatricality to it.
It's got some flair.
It's got a little bit of flair, but not much. Yeah, but it's shot. It's not shot on video. It has a good look to it. But yeah, it's not my cup of tea, I must admit. So, but I'm at the moment, riding on the current films that we've been reviewing, I'm giving this a 6 out of 10. So it's the best thing I've seen so far out of the films we've covered. So there you go, a 6 out of 10 for The Alleys. Go check it out. Our next review is The Payday. A broken, frustrated IT technician decides to embark on a one-woman heist to steal valuable data worth millions on the black market.
I would say she doesn't decide to embark on a heist. She's basically forced. That is the IMDb sort of synopsis.
Yeah.
Bad IMDb.
Yes, it's on a roll this week. Some really, really sort of ambiguous synopses is going on. Yes, you're absolutely right. So, it's not that she decides to embark on it. She's pretty much strong-armed into it by is it Simon Callow's character?
By Simon Callow.
Yeah.
Really, really good seeing him again. This was, it seems to be the season of sort of light, breezy comedies at the moment. We've had a few come through. This one impressed me a bit more than the others, probably because it has a sort of genre element to it. It is a heist movie at the end of the day. So, I could get in on that. And then the characters were pretty well done. The main guy, he looks like Rob Brydon.
Oh yeah,
like a younger Rob Brydon, and especially when he's doing his Welsh accent as well, which is quite amusing. So I kind of like this one, I must admit. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, it was all right. It's rom-com with, like you say, like a genre edge to it, and it's not too bombastic. It's quite not gentle, but it's not over the top or anything like that. It's more like a cybercrime than an actual like bank heist or something like that. And I think the only thing that got me is it's a little bit Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, where there's like 5 endings that it didn't need. The heist is over, then it's onto this, onto that, onto this, onto that, and it's because when the heist is actually finished, I just see how long was left. It's like 25 minutes. I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of a end credit scene as well, which didn't really need to be there. It was just a little bit of a joke at the end, but all in all,
and then some laboriously slow running credits to pad out the time.
Yeah.
Some of the slowest credits I've seen this year.
But yeah, it was fine. It was dandy. Nothing special. Nothing that I didn't expect. To be fair, I mean, there's quite a decent, not a twist, but who he actually turns out to be, I thought was actually quite decent. How that came about, and it was fine.
Totally agree. Rich, what do you make of this one?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I mean, if with that, when you're watching it, it's only occasionally that you sort of think. Well, in my case, it was only occasionally that I thought about how low budget it was, because I thought, although you can identify that it's a low budget film by very few locations, very sort of sparse. It's all sort of shot in very white kind of offices and that. There's not a huge amount of production design. I mean, some of the rooms are literally just like walls and a table and stuff. And it is for the most part, it's a two-hander. So there's not a lot going on, but they managed to rattle it along quite nicely, and it's all shot so nicely that it looks bigger than it is, if you see what I mean. It sort of feels it's almost, it's not hustle, it's shooting for hustle, it's kind of trying to be that kind of thing, but it's not got the money there, but it still sits quite comfortably in that genre. I mean, it's not ocean, it's not Oceans or anything, but you could still, if you liked Oceans, you probably like this, but in a different way. It's got those rom-com elements and stuff, like you're saying. I thought it's very breezy. I think the soundtrack's really good, sort of shuffles things along nicely. It's too repetitive. The music, some of it just like literally they just recycle it over and over again, but when it works really, really well. It starts off with Simon Callow. He's not in it very much, but he makes a big impression. He's really fantastic. When he turns up, he really sells it. He gets you engaged in what's going to go on. Then we end up, we're meeting our lead character played by Kyla Fry, and then she then crosses paths with Sam Benjamin's character of George. I think George. And there's also, and then all the the sort of the rom-com con stuff starts going on, and I think it tries to do too much a bit, and I did get a bit confused with all the all the attempts at misdirection and rug pulling, or who is who and stuff. It's like that at times it felt like a film that was really sort of stretched out. It was about a film that would have been comfortable about half the length, like an episode of say like an episode of a TV show or something, but it was sort of drawn out a bit. But it did manage. It did survive, and the heist as it is not much of a heist. It brings to mind the Steven Seagal film Mercenary for Justice, where he basically walks into a bank and puts in a memory stick or whatever, and then takes it away. It's basically that. And except this time it's like in an office, but all the characters are really sort of quite fun. You got it's those sort of heightened character. You meet the boss at the beginning, and she's like, oh well, welcome. So she's sort of it's a caricature of what sort of like a boss character would be or something, and I think that worked. But Kyla Fry is perfect in the lead. She plays her role really well. Simon Callow's great. Sam Benjamin's good. I couldn't help but, you said Rob Brydon. I couldn't help but see this in a similar way to Accident Man, Hitman's Holiday. It's got that same kind of looks better than it is, kind of, but light and frothy British movie kind of thing going on. I think, and I could totally see Scott Adkins in that role.
Actually,
I think he could pull it off. Because it's even without the action, don't have to have the action. That put the action in, that would be nice. But it's got a similar kind of look and feel and sort of light, enjoyable sort of movie thing about it. And so it exceeded my expectations. I saw the poster. I was quite interested in it, but I thought it was really quite a lot of fun.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, scores on the doors, Steve.
I'll give it a 6.
And Rich.
I would have given it a 7, but I couldn't see the title at the start of the movie aside every other credit, which drove me absolutely nuts. So therefore I was very distracted thinking, where the hell's the title during the first part. So because the title is apparently missing, please, if anyone did see the title and I just missed it, do point it out. But that just drives me absolutely nuts when you've got every other credit except for the title, or if it's there, I just didn't see it. So it's going to lose a point for that, unfortunately. Just a quick side note, it's not based on, but there was a short film called Double Cross, which had the two protagonists, the two actors in it, playing characters with basically with the same names. So I do wonder whether this started out as like they were developing that short film into a feature, which is also kind of about con and stuff. Yeah. And I do want, that was called Double Cross, which you can find. I didn't think that was that good, but I did think that was interesting that they've sort of carried that over into this movie. I've watched a couple of things that they've done. I think this is probably the best work I've seen out of these two performers, of the little that I've seen.
I just realised what he's in.
Oh yeah.
He's in I Am Vengeance Retaliation.
He is, yes.
Oh, yeah.
He was also in Express Delivery, the Bo Fowler film, I think.
Yeah. Was he? He must have turned up right at the end of that.
I think he's got like a really small part in it, but which I think is sort of why he's ended up. That's why I say that there's like these little associations to the action world. It's sort of, you could see him. You could see a sort of Scott Adkins or him and Scott Adkins playing brothers or something. You could see anything like that, really, I think. But yeah, sorry, I've gone off track there. But yeah, I was giving it a 6.
Okay, yeah, I'm giving it a 6 as well. It's interesting what you say about the you mentioned the other day about the missing title, and it just immediately brought to mind Invasion USA, because for some reason Chuck Norris's name is missing from the credits at the beginning.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Well, at least it was back on VHS. So, yeah, we were watching. I remember me and my dad watching this going, hang on a minute. Isn't Chuck Norris meant to be in this? And so rewinding it and having a look at the credit. But yeah. But anyway, I digress. So that is 3 6s for the Payday. Go check it out. Our short shot this week is KICKASS, the reboot. This is a concept short film from Sleepwalk Studios, which sees the main character from KICKASS trying on a new suit and then getting involved with breaking up a drug deal. My question to you guys is, was this written by the two guys on the beanbags?
Yeah, probably.
This is very sort of, this is very loose, is probably the best way I can describe this. You know, I imagine these guys aren't working with the best equipment. You know, some of the sound isn't very well done, but you know, that could be deliberate. I don't know.
I think that's just low budget fan
It
filmmaking.
could be, yeah. Okay, let's play. Okay, so we'll take that as read. That you know, this is literally a fan film. You know, we get various levels of fan films, don't we? Basically, we get some very polished stuff, like the Friday the 13th. You know, don't hike alone. That sort of thing. Down to, you know, something like this, which is a little bit more than a bunch of friends, you know, getting together. There is a very good costume at the center of this, you know, and there is some good, some camera work. You know, so the bit where he puts the suit on, for example, is shot really nicely, and there are a couple of decent gags about how shit he is. Like, there's a bit where he throws his smoke grenade, and then the idea is that the smoke grenade will go off, and then he'll sort of run in and do the superhero pose as the smoke clears, you know, but it doesn't work like that. It just looks really, really bad and desperate, which is quite funny. Yeah, so a little bit sort of more loose around the edges than we're probably used to, but I thought this was okay overall. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, very rough and ready. And I don't know. I mean, to me, it lacked the panache and what KICKASS was about, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it didn't gel me at all. Like I say, it was very, very cheap. I mean, it's probably cost a tenner, you know, to throw together. I mean, the suit looked quite decent, but everything else, I thought the actual fight scene was pretty shoddy. I mean, there's one part where he attacks someone and it's someone else who hits the floor, if you know what I mean. You know, I saw that, caught that straight away. And it was a bit rubbish. It just didn't impress me at all. It just seemed like they were, like you say, you know, the two guys at the beginning, they just stoned and talking shy. I mean, fair enough. I mean, that could be the vibe they were going for, but it didn't give anything to the story.
Yeah.
Apart from just, he's got a new suit, and his old suit's a bit battered and got holes in, covered in blood.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and that was it. And it didn't really bring anything new to the table as far as I'm concerned. I mean, for one, there's no hit girl in it, which, to me, you need a hit girl in a KICKASS project. It needs the connection of anarchy and, you know, balls to the wall, fun and humour, which I just thought was missing from this.
Okay. Rich, you found this one for us. Anything to add?
I think, well, I would just say I didn't love it, but I do think it's, you know, it's quite an interesting one to see. You know, we see a lot of fan films based on Batman and Superman and stuff, and I just thought this was something I haven't come across one of somebody trying to do a KICKASS film, which I thought was quite interesting. It doesn't have the budget, but I think they've tried really hard. The production did take, you know, quite a long time, and I've seen some making ofs, and they had to, you know, the guy playing Dave, KICKASS, had to be recast for some scenes because basically he was available, for a while, and then he had to go off to to college or something, and then they had to work around that, and I think that's come across, knowing that when before I went in. I think I didn't really notice.
No,
I didn't take too much notice
good
of that.
Job there. Yeah.
It is essentially a fight scene movie. It just spends about 5 minutes sort of rambling before its fight scene. It doesn't really set up anything particularly dramatic or whatever. It's just sort of jokey, sort of quirky, sort of messing about being a superhero kind of stuff, which I think is kind of the vibe.
That was the point. Yeah, that was the kind of point of the original film. Was he was, he's not a professional anything, basically. He's a complete amateur.
He's pretty useless. And then that's kind of where the film ends up, is just sort of limping off, kind of literally. That's kind of the movie kind of limps off. So if it's just strictly the concept they're aiming to do a bit more, I'm definitely interested. I'm keen to sort of, do they do another episode where they bring in like Hit Girl or something? I'm not a massive fan of the Kick-Ass movies, don't get me wrong. It's not I'm not hugely invested. I do like Mark Millar's work. I've read a few of his other graphic novels and stuff. I've actually not read the Kick-Ass ones because I haven't been able to get those, but I do like what he does with the superhero genre and stuff, and I think these guys have sort of pulled together quite an interesting look for the character, and there's definitely potential there, I think. And I think that's what I would say. That's the reason I would say to see it or look at it. It's something, it's a superhero short action film that's stuff we've seen before, but they're doing it with a character we haven't seen it tried with before, I would say. And
I agree. Yeah, it does have potential. I mean, I think our knee-jerk reaction is like, it's been a bit harsh, but I agree. There is definitely potential, and I think, there's definitely potential with the sort of the bad guy characters, because what I saw of them, the sort of two different factions, I actually really liked. These two guys are sort of, they're talking a bit like Vince and Jules, but when they turn up, and they've got the guy in the trunk and stuff, they don't really get to do much, unfortunately. It would be good to sort of see them recast to someone who could actually handle themselves. And the big guy who makes all the drugs is sort of, with the beard. I thought he was actually really funny when they're sort of going, yeah, this is good stuff. And he's like going, well, what the fuck do you think I do? I don't make shit. I make good drugs to sell to people. Yeah. I think that, that character's got potential as well. So definitely some pluses out of this. And if they can restructure it, modify it and sort of build on what they've done so far, then I think they're definitely onto a winner.
And I think what you got to, the key thing for me is this film doesn't do anything that the other Kick-Ass films or whatever haven't, and probably the next iteration won't do. I think the key thing for what makes the great fan films or the really interesting fan films is the ones that do something that the studios won't do.
Yeah.
That which I think is a bit difficult with Kick-Ass, because it already did sort of break through, doing it was already when they made the Matthew Vaughn movie, that was already quite controversial when that came out. So we've kind of moved on since then, and it sort of doesn't seem as risky anymore. And I was thinking, how do you? It's a difficult. You either do something that's really faithful, fairly faithful, and just not distinctive in its own sort of, like Power Rangers, like when they did that Power Rangers short film, which was like, okay, we're going to take the Power Rangers, but we're going to make it really adult and dark, and in a way that you've not seen before, in a way that you could only get away with if you were making it for like YouTube or something, unless, although we have had sort of gritty reboots officially and stuff, but you know what I mean? It's like that's harder to do with Kick-Ass, I think, than perhaps some other character. You could do a Batman film in the style of a Kick-Ass, that would be quite risky, but taking this on its own merits, I think it's an interesting little project. It's definitely worth having a look. I think there's some potential here. Let's see them do something really interesting for the next one.
Absolutely. Okay, we do not score the shorts, but we do recommend you check them out, and you shall find a link to this one in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Our DTV throwback this week is Skin Trade. On the trail of a Serbian gangster with international interests, NYC detective Nick Cassidy goes to Southeast Asia and teams up with a Thai detective to get revenge and destroy the syndicate's human trafficking network. Yeah, so this has a lot of strengths going for it, this one. It's got a great cast and it knows how to use it. There's not really any sort of stunt casting like, oh, we got such and such in for one day, you know, we got such and such in and we're actually going to use them properly is what we get here. So we've got Dolph Lundgren, we've got Tony Jaa, and we've got Michael J. White sort of as the heavy hitters, but in the background we've also got Ron Perlman and Peter Weller also bringing a bit of style to this. I thought this was pretty damn good. How about you, Steve?
I really enjoyed this, actually. This is probably the best film I've seen all week. And it kind of does what it says in the tin. You know, you've got the gangster element, you know, the cop out for revenge. Well, both cops out for revenge, shall we say, you know, teaming up after they've beaten the shit out of each other. But I thought the choreography was really good. It was one of them where you can actually see what was going on for once, you know, and it wasn't too over edited, shall we say?
Yeah.
And lit actually really well as well. And there's like three major fights really, like Dolph and Tony Jaa, and then Michael J. White as well.
Yep.
And I thought that was a really good fight. To me, he always, I mean, I've not seen that many Michael J. White films, but he always pulls off the guy in like the suit really well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You know, he's like a classy fighter, if you know, rather than a down and dirty street fight, setting the one we watched for throwback a while ago. Was it Blood and Bone, was it?
Oh, Blood and Bone,
yeah. But no, I really enjoyed it. Even, I mean, I love Ron Perlman anyway. Just he was a legend as soon as he did Hellboy and Beauty and the Beast. But he's really good in this as well, and he's just such a heartless bastard, you know. Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. The only thing that got me was the twist that left it open for possibly a sequel. To me, it didn't need that. But I suppose it makes it end on a lighter note.
Yeah.
But because it was quite grim with the subject matter.
There are some grim moments in this, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wanted it to go not full grim, but you know what I mean? I didn't want it. It felt a bit of a cop-out, the ending, to be fair.
Yeah. Oh. Well, the ending kind of reminded me of The Witch, you know, The Witch Part 2 that we reviewed last week as well. Where I saw it. No, sorry. No, I'm talking bollocks. There's a film I watched called The Suspect, which was another Korean film, which had a similar sort of ending.
Right. Okay.
So I'll have to edit this bit out. Mike talks bollocks about Korean films. Anyway. I kind of liked it. I wish they had sort of followed it up. That would have been good. You know, maybe go Iko way in or something, or you know, go to Indonesia and end up mixing things up there. But there you go. Rich, you hadn't seen this one before, had you?
No, I wanted to see it for years.
Yeah.
It never came out on DVD, and it eventually found its way onto VOD and stuff. But I found it on Channel 4 on all four.
Yes, right.
So I watched it there, and no ads came up, which was fantastic. And when I was watching it, at least. So no, I wasn't disappointed at all. It's definitely one of Dolph's best movies of this part of his career. I would say this was 2014, so it's 8 years ago now. Still, I think it stands up. I mean, it looks theatrical quality, I would say, compared to something like Day of Reckoning, which was a couple of years earlier. That had a similar sort of polish to it, but also some of the other sort of DTV movies like Steven Seagal's Into the Sun, where clearly there's been a bit more effort put into it. It's shot in really nice. And yes, that cast is fantastic. It's all shot really good. It's by the numbers. I mean, the sort of sex trafficking theme, which sort of looms over the whole thing, and is treated a bit sleazily at times, is sort of the novel part of it. That's kind of that's Dolph bringing his sort of personal interest in trying to make a statement to the movie in a similar way to what I guess like Sylvester Stallone does in some of his movies. What I would say is that it seems like it's going to be more of a trafficking thriller, but it actually ends up being a full-on action movie. By the time you get past the first act, it's a breakneck pace. There's like action scene after action scene, essentially, or at least it felt that way to me in its very brief running. I mean, it got to the end, and I was like, oh, this is the end. I didn't realize, it's like the fights go on so long. You do get, and they are satisfying. I mean, yes, you got the whole typical thing of, the good guy chasing another actual good guy, and then they're going to face off. And I mean, Dolph's done that in, other films that he's made as well. Where the two good guys actually both are enemies for a while, and then they have a fight, and then like moments later they're teaming up and stuff. It's all by the numbers. But it's fun. I mean, it's really well. I mean, fun with a sort of caveat of that sort of awkwardness of some, because there's some quite skeezy scenes and stuff. But the director, who's a Thai filmmaker, whose name I'm going to butcher, Ekachai Ukra.
I'm not even going to try.
So he's done films like dramas, like there was a film about a transgender Beautiful Boxer and stuff. So very experienced director, not normally known for action, doing something does it quite well, and the whole the cinematography and that all looks really good. But yes, it's the cast, and as you say, Mike, they use them well. They don't. None of it feels like forced, or they're there as like a quick cameo. Peter Weller's really good in the bits he does, and Ron Perlman's really good in the bits he does, and Tony Jaa in this. I think this is the first film. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so Peter Weller, when you mentioned this film, I thought, because I had seen it before, and I'm thinking, I seem to remember Peter Weller being in this. And I did actually get a bit confused between this and his performance in Dragon Eyes. Yes. With just the, is it not Tiger Chen?
Kung Lee.
Kung Lee, that's it. Yeah, he's in that one. Because his performance in there is really flamboyant. He's this dirty cop in that one. He wears this sort of jaunty hat, and he's really good. This one, he's more of a sort of straight-laced sort of character. But as I say, it is great to sort of see him in this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of it's not really a throwback, it's sort of, but this is kind of the movies that Showdown in Little Tokyo. I mean, this has even got Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa in a small cameo.
It does, yeah. That's
stuff. Right. But the whole teaming up with Tony Jaa, I think this was Tony Jaa's first English language sort of main role. They're clearly trying to push him. This film was aimed for bigger things, and they were clearly trying really hard with it, and it just didn't. And that's why it's so little known. I think it's just for whatever reason it just didn't pan out. And it's kind of become one of these films that not many people have heard of, but it's one. Say Dolph's really good. He gets a proper. I mean, this is him doing a Punisher kind of thing. He's just off for vengeance. But even and Tony Jaa, I think he's doing an English language role. I think he's handling the English quite well, and he gets to do some properly good, albeit watered down. This isn't Tony Jaa in his peak from about 10 years.
It's not on back, but at the same time,
but he still does some great stuff.
Yeah,
he's still
doing even the like the parkour stuff and everything like that. Really
you're getting the knees, you're getting the elbows, you're getting the impact of all those sort of fight scenes that established him in the first place. It's because I think it was after this he went on to be in like Fast and Furious 7 or whatever it was and stuff like that. But it's
Triple X3 and stuff.
And Michael Jai White gets to be really good. But the thing is, you were saying about sort of leading into a sequel and stuff. It did kind of have a sequel because Triple Threat is essentially the sequel.
I was going to suggest that, I mean, I was going to say, like, Triple Threat is sort of like the companion film to this, isn't it?
Exactly. Companion piece. What I liken it to is, remember in the early 2000s when Joel Silver made a series of action movies with
Cradle to the Grave.
Basically had Jet Li in 2 of them and Steven Seagal in the one in the middle.
Romeo Must Die.
So this is kind of, these movies are kind of like that in that, so this one is, so like Tony Jaa was in both this and Triple Threat, but Dolph Lundgren obviously wasn't. But producer Michael Selby made both of these movies. And Triple Threat also brought back Michael Jai White, Selena Jade, who's also in this, and who else? And Tony Jaa, obviously. So there's the visuals and stuff. That was obviously a Jesse Johnson movie, slightly different, but you can definitely see the DNA, the relationship between the two. They work. I mean, in terms of the casting as well. I mean, Triple Threat blew us away with that cast, didn't it? And this is a similar thing. They've got all these fantastic people on board. I mean, there's a big explosions finale in this and everything. It's great. If you've never seen this or Triple Threat, then you double bill them. You got to, and it does make me think. What would be the next one? What would be the Cradle in the Grave, the third of the series? I would love to see that. So let's get. So if you were going to follow that, the Joel Silver sort of principle back, you've got to reunite Dolph Lundgren and Tony Jaa in a completely different kind of story. And I would love to see that happen. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, with Scott Adkins and Gigi Yeaning.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Something like that. Yeah, absolutely, would be superb. So we don't score these, but I think you can tell we really enjoyed this. And we certainly recommend you check it out. So where did we find this? This is on all 4 at the moment.
It's only there for a limited time. You can find it on VOD. On various platforms. VOD.
But it's definitely worth seeing if you haven't seen it yet. And you like a bit of action. This has got plenty of it. Go check it out. And that's the end of this week's show. So thanks to Steve and Rich for joining me as usual.
Always a pleasure.
A bit of a weird mix this week. Some very sort of arty kind of stuff going on. Didn't quite gel with us overall. But there you go. That's them's the breaks, as it were. But
we ended on a proper DTV note, though, didn't we?
Yeah, we did end on proper DTV notes, so absolutely. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter at the DTV Digest, and also the Short Shots, where Rich puts a link to a new short every evening around about 8 o'clock. Other than that, thanks for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.